Welcome back. I know we had another little small hiatus, but we're trying to get back to it as soon as we can, as time permits. Today's show is we're going to talk about our draft that we did last week. We're going to talk about the things that we liked about it, things we were excited about. We'll kind of move into what we thought were some reaches or maybe some risky strategies that we saw, and then finish up with some draft day traps and some media traps that we think people are probably buying the hype too much on or don't quite understand the situation that player is in at the moment. But anyway, we'll get to that in due time. So, Ray, you're going to start us off tonight. What was your favorite part of our draft?
With Gil and them, right? I think my favorite was Josh Allen going first overall. That's so fucking funny to me.
I swear he did it to mess with you. I swear.
I don't know. Shit like that makes me think I don't know a damn thing about fantasy because it's unreal to me. I never in a million years would have ever. I could have guessed 100 times and never would have guessed that Josh Allen would go first overall.
No.
That's so crazy to me.
So if you had the number one pick, you wouldn't have done it?
No, I said I wouldn't. I said I wouldn't. When we talked about our draft episode before the draft, I said no QB in the first round. It's not necessary.
It's not.
I would have
not.
You go Jonathan Taylor, bro. You got to go Jonathan Taylor first.
Which is what I was expecting.
Which is what everyone thought it would happen. You know what I mean? So other than the humorous part, what do you think is probably your favorite part in the early part of the draft for you? Like, is there a player in particular you were super happy to grab or see some dudes get picked up that you know could probably hurt the other player or other teams and stuff like that?
I mean, we had kind of a messy first round because we had some new people. I think Palmer, Lil Palmy, I think he thought we were making fun of him over Derrick Henry because he heard us. Because he could have grabbed him. There was no reason not to, and then he grabbed Tom Brady. As silly as it is to grab Josh Allen in the first round, it's even worse to grab Tom Brady in the first round, especially when Derrick Henry is available. That blew my. And he's a Tennessee fan. It made no sense to me.
Made no sense.
I think it was more the fact that he's new.
I don't know.
We were kind of talking. We were kind of talking shit a little bit.
I think that's more what it is. It's not that he's new. I think that I joked about him getting Derrick Henry, but I expected him to do it because it makes sense. The joke was that as a Tennessee fan, the joke is that as football fans, we pick players that are not good that are our team, right? But Derrick Henry is good, which is why you're allowed to pick him even though he's on your team.
Yeah.
It's
that to me was I'm going to chalk it up like Brian said to just being a little bit new, maybe a little gun shy, because it's something that you never really can prepare.
That was my first draft with new people.
Yeah,
I've never done a draft with people who I'm usually the newest one in my drafts.
Yeah,
all the leagues I joined are dudes that have been playing together for years, so that was a unique experience for me, and it was a little wild. It was a little wild. There were some strange picks.
So with that, Brian, what was your favorite part of this draft that we did?
Honestly, I think it comes down to the favorite I liked was the order for me. We did 10, so I was 9. So I was able to I didn't get the first pick, which is fine, but at the same time I still had when it gets to that later round where I have a pick, I wait 2 picks and then I have another pick. So it's nice to have
a bang.
Yeah, I personally for me I love it having back to back so I can set them in a line and figure out exactly where I want to go with things. I think it has a lot more control, but that's again. For us, we always do it random every year, but I think honestly that works out a lot better.
Random snake order, I should say.
Yes.
Sorry, just want to make sure. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. And I know Dylan, I know you were super slammed that night, and I know you weren't quite able to join, but I know you joined later in the draft. So I'd like to get your feedback on what when you walked into your team, right, to take over back from Otto. What was probably the favorite part of what you were walking into?
That I happened to get Cooper Kupp. That was not even on my list. The funny thing is I would have never picked Lamar Jackson. That was not my guy to go for as a quarterback.
I said that. Did I not say that?
Yeah,
there are players on his roster that he would not pick.
He would never have picked.
There's
Najee Harris being another.
Najee Harris, yeah.
Yeah, it's another. He would never have picked it.
Okay. I am happy that I got Cooper Kupp. And the other one I'm happy with, I'm not really sure though, because I got DK and Tyler Lockett, and
so you grabbed them.
Yeah, well, I think auto draft got those for me because they knew that I'm a Seahawks
I think so too.
Fan,
no, I think it's because
also,
at that point in the draft, the auto draft picks the
Which is
highest
the top
rank.
dude. Oh, yeah, you're right.
It goes through roster QB, running back, wide receiver, flex, tight end, kicker, defense, and then it goes by
the number 1 point producing whatever.
Right, their highest projection, and which is why DK and Lockett got picked up. I would never pick Lockett ever.
Why? Well, I mean, I like Lockett. I think he's a good receiver.
That's been Dylan's wild card for years.
That's fair.
Yeah,
he has produced.
The problem is that Russell Wilson is no longer the quarterback, and they put Geno Smith as the quarterback. So I don't know if I can even rely on DK.
Was Geno wasn't locked in? Was he?
Not.
Yeah,
not at the time.
Until like a week ago.
Preseason will fuck you. Preseason will fuck you.
The last week, I believe he was locked in by Pete Carroll. However, the things I did pick, which was the Bengals defense and Young Ho Koo. I got to go with my boy Young Ho Koo because
Young Ho did great for you last year.
Oh, he's a killer kicker.
And,
Young Ho
kicker,
Atlanta.
Yeah. I didn't know his first name. Okay. Yeah, he's good. He's a solid kicker.
Well, yeah, but like the Falcons don't really have any offense, so that's like more points for your kicker just from him.
Kicking constantly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I didn't really know what to do with the defense. I mean, I picked up Bengals. That's fair.
Go ahead, Brian.
It's not a bad defense to pick up.
Which you're right. It's not a bad defense. However, I'm pretty sure I said it in the past, is your defenses are going to be a week-by-week basis, depending on the matchups, who got hurt, who's still or who's coming out of the league.
And who just sucks.
I haven't really even touched my roster, and I'm not even going to touch it until week 1 is done.
Sure.
Until I'm like, I can
I'm
get
itching.
this guy,
I'm itching
and like
something.
I'm not even really itching. I'm just waiting to see what happens. Honestly.
Oh, I'm impatient.
I mean, overall, I forgot why I missed the draft, but I forgot why I missed the draft. But
let me ask you, Dylan, just real quick, before we move on to me being the last part of this. Would you have drafted DK if you were in the room?
Yeah.
And what round would you have approximately drafted him? Because I think he went. I could find out right later.
I can see it would probably been 5th or 6th round.
You drafted him 5th round.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's pretty.
Sounds about right. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you have done it again?
Yeah. That's why I said either 5th or 6th round. I would have drafted him. If he wasn't gone, I would have drafted him again. Just because I know DK is an absolute monster of a wide receiver, and even though he's got a subpar quarterback right now, I think Drew Lock should be starting. And if Drew Lock was starting, I think DK would have a better opportunity with more looks and more receptions. But I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Geno does.
Yeah.
I don't believe the Seahawks will do very well with Geno as starting.
I don't think Seattle's done acquiring players. I think Seattle will see if they start the season really rough. I think they probably go somewhere to grab a quarterback to normalize the situation. I don't think Seattle will ever accept being the first overall pick in a draft if they can help it, especially with the guys that they have. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that could happen between now and week 8. That maybe DK becomes a great pickup. You know what I mean? Maybe DK goes somewhere because of the money, right? So we'll see what that goes. All right. So I'll go with mine. And me and Brian were hot on each other's trail. We did another War Room this year, which I'm sorry we didn't record it. We should have recorded it.
Yeah, that would have been really good, honestly.
And me and Brian talked about it for hours throughout the day and up until the order was drafted. And we knew who we were going to look for. We knew who we were going to go after. And it popped off, and it was the highest ranking I ever had, and I was 3rd overall. And honestly, to me, there was zero hesitation, and it brought me such joy to give me another dose of Jazzy Jeff this year. I was super happy. And Brian and I were like, hey, man, if he's there, I'm getting him. I don't care if it's 2nd overall, 3rd overall. I don't give a shit. He's coming with me. And so he and I were like super – and when it popped off as 3rd, I knew that like the likelihood that Gil got him and didn't pick up JT, and the likelihood that who was first overall this year was Soden. Snowden, right?
I
didn't see him going for that. I thought he might do more like Debo or a Packer, but he didn't. And so I hastily grafted him. And what it did is it teed me up perfectly for my weird fucky strategy I'm doing this year, which was a super receiver heavy based draft for me this year. I went receiver 1, 2, and 3, right? So that teed me up to put me in the exact position I wanted to do that. So I was having a blast the whole time to watch, even though I had to wait forever till my next pick. But it above because by the time it came back right at third, I would get third, 1, 2, third again, right? So it enabled me to stay on track and get super pumped up for where we were at. But that also kind of brings us kind of into our, not so much the questionable strategy, but it talks about like what we thought was, a strong idea or things that worked out or players that fell into good positions in certain teams to kind of keep a balance in the league and stuff like that. So once that teed me up for that and I was just sitting tight, it was actually bananas watching who got who in our league. None of them were like bad picks. The Brady thing, I think, is just a new person thing. I'm not going to hold that against him, right? That's just a lesson everyone learns. And maybe they're fucking idiots. Maybe he knows that.
I learned my lesson the hard way when I picked up Brady for the first time. When he went, was it 2 years ago when he went to the Bucks for the first time?
Tampa. Yeah.
And I learned the lesson the hard way. He threw three interceptions against the Packers or something.
Yes.
Whatever that game was.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm never picking him up again.
So with that, so Ray, what was like one of the more surprising moments in our draft you think you can nail down for us?
So
can be good or bad, doesn't matter.
I don't know, and I'm not to shit on you, Dylan, but your auto draft kind of fucked up the feng shui of our little draft there. Just because I hate auto draft, and it's not anything against you. You can't make the bot be more like you. That's not on you. The way they have the bot work is it just picks the top person. I hate that. Because like we already established, you wouldn't have picked some of those dudes, which would have left them available for other people, which would have changed the shape of the draft. So that's why I hate auto draft, because it's an impartial party that is impacting the draft. I just want to
doesn't represent
throw that out there.
Right,
but also it dramatically if we just all pick the top ranked dude, you don't even need, if none of us should be drafting. What you're supposed to be picking people that you like, that you have a good feeling about, you have knowledge about their situation. Let me think. Something that caught me off guard.
I actually know.
I'm trying to think, and I know what I'm thinking of. I just can't think of the name of the player. I'm not going to be able to think of it. Brock picked up late. Go ahead, Brian. I'm going to look at Brock's team, and then I'll be able to.
I was just actually looking at the teams they're set up. The thing that surprised me most is how I'm going to say the Pitt wide receiving core in general. How that we have Johnson gone, Pickens is off the table, Claypool's off the table. Yeah. I just don't even like the really good receiver. Well, I mean, Pickens is a really we'll see what he develops into.
Sure.
I'm just curious. I'm really surprised the fact that they went so, I would say soon within the first 1 to 7.
I definitely
round 7.
Pickens.
It was which is I would say they went within the first half of the draft.
Yeah, it was the first 7 rounds at least.
Yeah, because the concern I have with them is new quarterback. I mean, they've been there, but they've always had Big Ben throwing that football. I expect them to. I expect. Did they name the starting quarterback yet?
Yeah, it's Trubisky.
So Trubisky is. That's what. Okay,
he's
that's
the
what I was
official
thinking.
number 1.
Okay,
Pickett's number 2.
So, I think there's going to be a little bit more accuracy. They're a little bit more on the run throws because he can get out of the pocket now rather than Big Ben wobbling out of the pocket like he's 50 years old in a wheelchair. My concern is it's still the same wide receiving core.
Yes.
They didn't really show up at all last year or the year before that. Claypool
Who was on the other side of the field from Claypool?
Deontay.
I think it's Deontay Claypool.
I forgot his name.
And then
Freiermuth was in his first year.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I've already noticed Freiermuth and they've already have a really good connection. So I'm interested. That's why I picked up Freiermuth, is because I've already seen in the preseason that they're gonna throw it. He will throw it to the tight end. Like that is an option.
But if you look at Moot's numbers from last year's, he had 8 touchdowns. That's awesome. That's awesome for a tight end. That's a rookie.
Huge.
Last year was a really good year for tight ends.
Yeah. So I totally agree, Brian. The dedication to the Steelers receivers that I've seen as a Steelers diehard, having been on that field many times as a band member at Pitt, kind of blows me away.
Yeah,
because I'm their worst critic.
High.
Right? Maybe I'm their worst critic sometimes because I'm like, you piece of shit, you dropped it, right?
Yeah.
But he also, like, Deontay I gave a lot of shit to because there were some times where he had very reminiscent of Hollywood Brown moments last year.
Yes.
But if I'm being objective and I go do what Ray does, and that is look at the points, he's fucking high as shit. It was his weekly production was awesome.
He's a good receiver. If he can just dial it in a little bit more,
yes,
and maybe have a little bit more accurate quarterback.
Yes,
I think that's
my issue was also like it was frustrating to watch the Steelers stick to things that weren't working last year, and so if you had Deontay, you were in great hands because he legitimately was scoring so consistently well, including a couple of 35-point games, right? That I was like, okay, Ray has a point. I may not like the situation, but I can't doubt the production and numbers are numbers, right? So I have to eat crow on that one. But I still am pretty surprised how high Claypool went, especially with a terrible
after a terrible second season.
Terrible.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So, but sophomore stuff's a real thing.
He went in like the 11th round of my buy-in draft, right?
Who did?
I told you guys that Claypool.
Was this Claypool? Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
like he was picked 11th up.
Round, I don't think that's bad, but within the first 5 or 6,
he was gone in the first 6 rounds for us.
Yeah. If I could find him,
I'm sure I mocked the person that did that. I'm sure. So I remember what mine was. If you're
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Dylan
it wasn't one player, right? It started with this player, and that's Gabe Davis.
Oh shit!
But it continued to James Cook and then Dawson Knox. Funny enough, my tight end, Brock drafted Gabe Davis in like the 6th or 7th round.
No, it was even earlier than that. Actually,
I don't think it. If it was, it
was the 6th round. You're right.
6th round.
Round. What?
Brock drafted him in the 6th round. That fucking kills me. All the shit that I take from Brock about being a Bills fan, and then he picks up our WR2 in the 6th round.
And it follows up
with Cook and then Dawson Knox.
I think that's that media trap we're going to get to the end of the episode with. Maybe. I really think Gabe Davis fell into that trap.
That is surprising for me as a Bills fan, as a friend of Brock who's had to take shit for Buffalo players in fantasy from him for 2 years now. It blew my mind. Every time he did it, all 3 times I'm like, what are you doing, Brock? Why are you picking up these players? First of all, you don't get to knock Dawson Knox all season and off season and then draft him as your first tight end. You're a piece of shit.
He picked up Kelsey. He's got him behind Kelsey. What's the fucking point? You're never going to play Knox over Kelsey.
I don't really know why.
That's besides the point because he drafted Kelsey like round 2. Yeah, so he drafted him as a receiver, not as a tight end.
And we have another flex. That's true.
Yeah.
So okay, no, that's for sure. That's it. Buffalo.
Anytime Buffalo, with the exception of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, any Buffalo player that goes before round 6 is surprising me because of how much the Singletary should not
picked up Singletary
picked up
way early.
So I'm a Bills fan.
I think that's a trap.
We share the ball too much. So anytime it blows my mind when I see Bills players get picked up in fantasy because I'm just like, we share the ball too much. Their fantasy value is terrible because, well, for whatever reason, we can't figure out our backfield, and then our receivers all have equal shares of the ball because Josh Allen throws to whoever's open. He only forces the ball to Stephon Diggs.
Soden picked up Singletary with dudes like Etienne, Cam Akers, Sanders, as much as shit.
He picked up Singletary over other starters
at the start of the 6th round.
Yeah,
that was.
It would be different. It would be different if he was picking him over like second backs.
Yes,
or people that are in split backfields.
Yes,
but because he is
the
a
first
split
dude
backfield.
Off waivers when the draft was over, I could see Singletary still be in there, right? Because
sure.
we're uncertain.
Yeah, that's where I'd get him if I was looking for him.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So, again, two really good gotcha moments that are a little bit eye opening. So, Dylan, what do you got for us? What part of the draft, maybe it doesn't have to be your team, it could be another team. Which one are you surprised is either rostered or drafted, or what do you think?
I don't know. I haven't really looked at the other rosters.
Well, yeah, he missed most of the draft.
Well, not only that, I just haven't really looked at the other rosters. I don't really care about the other rosters because I'm more worried about my team. So I'm like,
that's
I take it week by week. So like I believe I have Carson this week, and then its projected points is that I'm supposed to blow him out of the water. So I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. So
he's going through some stuff with this roster. We're gonna have to get with Palmer about his roster.
Yes,
I think it was there was top 3 highest projected points for the first week, and I think it was me
and LeBee. LeBee's way up there, and Gil.
I think it was either it was Gil.
You, LeBee, and Gil are the top projected points right now.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know. I guess what would blow my mind is I don't know if anybody did, but if somebody drafted, it's like my roster kind of just blows my mind just of how it went down. Just because there's a lot of players I would not draft, like Lamar Jackson. I would have never drafted.
Javonte Williams.
Not
in the third round.
Najee Harris. There's a lot of people I would not draft. I mean, Cooper Kupp, I would have just drafted because I know Stafford loves him. And he just throws him the ball constantly.
Yes.
So my problem is that Stafford is very inconsistent with Stafford's very inconsistent. Okay. Nobody will ever say that he's not an elite quarterback. He is not an elite quarterback. He's not.
So for those at home, our guest tonight is our boy Dylan. And Dylan grew up watching the Lions for years. And the frustrations that Stafford had, and adamantly swore to us that he was a bullshit quarterback. And he went on to win an MVP in the Super Bowl. At all. I'm just saying. 1 year removed from Detroit.
But did you hold on. Did you watch the last couple of plays of the game? The refs were definitely wanting the Rams to win.
Well, first of all, Eli Apple has to be
every right to win that game. Now, do I say that? Okay, now don't get me wrong. There was a BS call that wasn't called on the Bengals. That should.
It doesn't matter. That game, went into the toilet at the end. It was shitty for both sides. Were doing dumb things, and both sides had bad calls. It doesn't matter. Jim, Brock, and I argued about this the other day when we were on the phone. We weren't in call or on a show. If you get to the Super Bowl, you are good. You're at least the second best team that year.
Wow, it's like
it's almost like that's how the Super Bowl works.
That kind of makes sense.
Why did Calvin Johnson retire? It's because he was getting killed by his quarterback every time he threw the ball.
Well, Gavin Johnson was a massive human being. But what I will say is,
he retired because
to Dylan's point,
that has nothing to do with Stafford, though.
To Dylan's point, he did lead the NFL in interceptions. Yeah. But that's also a product of him throwing so often.
Yeah,
right?
It's the same reason Josh Allen's interceptions are so high.
It's the same as Joe Burrow.
His production is infinitely higher than other quarterbacks.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're going to throw the ball 50 times a game, the odds are going to go up. At some point, that ball's going to ping off somebody.
Drop off the receiver's hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or hit someone in the back, and next thing you know, it tips off somebody.
Or like you get fucking mollywopped from the back because your left tackle fucked you, right? And then the ball's just flailing to a linebacker, just waiting, right? So that's part of the game, right? And we kind of know that when we talk about quarterbacks, right? We'll come back to that because I think I have some more points in Stafford stuff at the end of the show. But so I'll go to my most what am I looking at moment is actually going to be so this isn't a bad thing, Ray. I think I was a little surprised at how hard you shifted. I think what it was a product of the draft, but you shifted from I'll get the running backs that I need to I kind of had to scrap whatever receiver was left, right? Because everybody was so receiver heavy.
Everyone else, there wasn't a good mix in our draft.
No, it wasn't.
Everyone went receiver heavy, basically except me.
Yes.
I would have not gone receiver heavy if
no, you're fine. You're not even that heavy. What I'm getting at is Ray is going to win or die in this league with these running backs because even his bench has dudes that I would start, right? So his running back core is rock solid. His receiving core needs to heal a little bit.
I would say I would take a strong running back core over a receiving core because.
I'm banking on it. So
so does Ray.
No, the reason why is that if you know that running back starting for the week, you at least know that he's going to get some points. Whereas if you have starting receivers, you don't necessarily.
Jazzy Jeff has never gone scoreless. Just so you know,
Jim is a bit underselling it because
I don't mean to shitty.
I know. I'm saying, but like they don't know the listeners. Nobody listens to the show.
Yes,
but the listeners, the listeners don't know. I have Austin Eckler and Joe Mixon on my start,
and Mitchell.
That's not even to mention who I have, following them.
Yeah,
my running back core isn't just strong. It's
the number one.
It's the number one.
The best. It
is the best. Yep. There's nobody that has stronger running backs than like a stronger core than me. And it's not even just. I could take. He has. It's all dependent on how Kamara turns out. And don't get me wrong, I have Kamara in other leagues, so I'm pulling for him.
That's
for
true.
Sure.
That's true.
But also that suspension, possibly.
I don't. Well,
that's what we're saying.
Side burner. We'll get into it. But what I want to get at too, Ray, is the gotcha moment is actually with each day. I changed my mind a little bit because those receivers may not be in the number one in the receiving core. They all could have phenomenal seasons. I love me some Waddle. And Sutton. Like, he now has the quarterback to make it happen, and the O-line and the running back, and, like, a lot of it points to a very positive season. And I love that Renfrow went as high as he did in many leagues because I think Renfrow is probably one of the best steals that you could find, right?
Yeah, I would have.
I love me some Renfrow. Renfrow and Godwin are, like, kind of like this, and that's only because Godwin's going to be injured for a little bit. But, like,
if Godwin were healthier, he'd be higher. But
Godwin would be higher, and that's why Godwin fell a little bit. But I think – the gotcha moment happened a week after our draft, and I was like, actually, those receivers could shape up to be very good. It's just going to take some time, I think, while they kind of figure out how their offenses are going to run. Because I don't think any of us have seen Russell Wilson actually play with all of his starters yet, so we don't fucking know.
I don't think he played at all during the preseason.
No,
I think he's going to do phenomenal. Honestly, I
hope he does.
I think the Seahawks were bogging him down. I think last year he was just.
He certainly felt so.
He didn't. Right. Like, I feel like he just did that 1 year extension.
He was gonna. He wanted. He was willing to take a pay cut to get out of Seattle. Yeah, so he didn't want to be there.
That's so fair though. Like, you can't. I would say I would classify him as an elite quarterback just because of the things that he's done.
Yes.
If he can turn things around after leaving.
Brian? Huh?
Which is why I also
his time in Seattle was bad. All right, we're getting a little a little crowded here.
Yeah.
Which is why, Dylan, I actually love me some Jerry Jeudy as well. I would have grabbed him. If Brock didn't grab him in like the fourth round, I would have gladly have gotten me some Jerry Jeudy. It's just the way that my draft fell, I got the perfect receivers for who I wanted at what time in the draft. That really is about as strong a core as I could make it, and then some, right? So I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. It's just we're going to have to see if that strategy works for me this year, right? But anyway, so I bring all that up, Ray, to say that, like, we had talked a bunch with not just the show, but going into the draft about the way that people's mindsets were kind of changing or not changing and what people would do, and it was always relative to the position in the draft that they would be in, right? Mm-hmm. It's just it was so crazy that, like, you didn't want it to go this way, but you definitely got pigeonholed into the number one running back room. You know what I mean?
Yes.
By the time you had the receivers available, dude, you're not going to turn down Mitchell for Waddle. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
After I think they were available like in the 6th round, like Mitchell and Rashad Penny. I picked them late because I might be wrong. I've drafted a lot. I think I have my 5th draft this afternoon. So I might be confusing my leagues, but I'm pretty sure I've been trying to stay consistent to the strategy I laid out in our drafting episode: running back, quarterback, receiver, back to running back. So if I'm not mistaken, I did do that in our league, I got Mitchell or Rashad in like the 6th round.
Yes,
after I got Sutton and Renfrow. So, but like what you're saying is, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be pigeonholed into picking up these strong running backs. But when I can, use the flex like that, and just the league went so receiver heavy. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was shocking to me. So I would consider that my second part of like what shocked me was how quickly those receivers disappeared. Yeah,
but it actually, I think up until this point, until the season starts, obviously I don't know, but I think that second flex did exactly what we wanted it to, and that was to make up for the shortcomings of the tight end. That was the goal. The goal was to say, hey, I'm not going to have a 1 point fucking dude on my roster. Not if I can help it, right? Because tight ends are just such a wide array. But, like, you finished up with Higbee. I mean, like, that's exactly what we wanted with our flex. And that was like, it doesn't matter if Higbee does good or bad. It doesn't matter, right? Because you have potential to completely erase that bad performance. So I really like the way that it changed the draft, and it changed the way that dudes look at how they actually staff that roster. Because even though, like, okay, maybe I did get pigeonholed to running back. That's okay. You have another flex. Throw that good-ass running back in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Call it a day. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. It's crazy how much one position will change.
It did.
Your league.
Huge mindset difference.
I had a couple leagues that changed, like my Superflex league. That was that draft is completely different when you can throw 2 QBs in.
2 QBs on a roster.
Oof, yeah. So, that'd be crazy.
So with that, what's that, Dylan?
Sorry, I was going to say, we're talking about like roster difference makers. You could say that. Like, I would argue that for me, I know for me last year, when I believe I picked up Renfro and JT from the Colts. How about a difference maker on the team? Like, JT was putting up points regardless.
Monsters.
Yeah. I think one game he put up like, I think there's multiple. No, maybe not multiple. I know there's a couple games where he put at least over 40 points on the board.
Yep.
And you can't count out Hunter Renfro either.
No.
So it's like,
especially later, mid to late season, Renfro was an animal. Like, it was tough.
Yeah.
I started him weekly.
2 touchdowns every game, right? Yeah. So with that, I want to move over into what you guys thought were like the biggest reaches that you can think of, or like questionable strategies that you saw throughout the draft. I know I can think of a bunch right now that I was like, I have it varied from like slight reaches to, whoa, okay. Again, we're going to cut Carson some slack, so I'm going to rule the Tom Brady thing off limits. Because we're just beating a dead horse at that point.
Just can't bring it back up. Huh?
So Ray or whoever really, who's got the first one that they want to do for biggest reaches or most surprising strategies so far?
Biggest reach. I don't know. Probably something Soden did. I felt like he had some head ass
in the 6th round.
I mean, but I already covered that with every Buffalo player drafted by anyone outside of Allen and Diggs. Let's see. Let me flip through.
I got a little
Go ahead, Brian.
If you got one, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Wait, it's Kareem Hunt, and who else was in the backfield for the Browns?
Chubb, yes.
Chubb. They're both. Yeah, it's either one or the other when it comes down to it.
Yeah, so and now, just real quick on that Browns point, I think any Browns player is extremely risky with that.
Especially at this point with who's quarterback, who's leading that charge.
To me, Chubb falls way down the list. I'm sorry. I don't have faith in that system.
Here's my question. If we got Brisket out there throwing the ball, do they run it more?
They will run it more, and their tight end's going to be used. That's my bet that Njoku will have a better year. They will run it more. My thing is, like, that doesn't make it successful. So because they run it 60 times between Hunt and Chubb, they may still lose games by a lot. You know what I mean? Because over time, like, run games can do very well. Don't get me wrong. You see it in Philly. You see it in San Fran. You see it a lot of places. It's just I have concerns because as much as shit we gave him last year, Baker was more lethal than Brisket for sure.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So that's why I have huge concerns over any Browns player, period. Full stop. Even Hunt, because it's required that I would say Brisket, Brissett, excuse me. That's our joke. My bad, dog, if you hear this. But like if he's not used to that standard flick off, which he isn't, man. We saw it in Miami last year with him. Gesicki had great games with him. And then and Watto had good games, but running backs did not. And top receivers did not. And so I don't know how much he's changed or adapted to that system, but I certainly have concerns for many Browns players. Just shy of Njoku. I mean, Hunt and Chubb will be productive. I just think it won't be as predictable. Like, if Chubb's healthy last year, he's going to do well.
He was for sure. He was the start last year.
But it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, too many variables where I'm like, we'll see. So Sorry, I didn't want to beat it.
No, for sure. No, for sure. That's exactly where I was going with it. And my questions, and you even added on some more of what I won with Njoku and all that, and how that's
even Amari Cooper, man. Like,
we'll see how that rolls out.
Yeah. So, all right, Dylan, what you got? You had something that was on your mind that you were about to pop off with. What you got, brother?
What was the question again?
We were talking about like biggest reaches and like things that surprised us that you saw in the draft, or I know you weren't. I know you got a lot. Stafford being drafted.
Stafford.
Yeah, no, he went high too for us.
What about why? I don't know. I don't know why you would draft him high.
People get nervous. People get nervous about not being able to have a starter.
That's okay. Because guess who drafted him? Me.
My man Brian.
We'll have this conversation. I took him in round 10 with the 92nd pick.
That's pretty good. That's good value. For 10th round?
For 10th
round, that's an amazing quarterback grab.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
About?
That's why when I got Dak in the 9th round, I was like, I'm taking it.
Josh Allen's gone. Kyler Murray's gone.
Lamar's gone.
Lamar. I'm not even talking about Tom Brady. I don't think
if you're gonna say a QB reach for position pick, mine. I picked Traylon Hurts, and I think like the third or fourth round.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
What did I say?
What did I say? Jalen Hurts. Something. I don't know.
I don't slurred my Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Yes.
For me, that's my pick.
That was my breach.
I'm taking a risk with Jalen Hurts.
That's
not my pick though. So if you want to go at it, Jim, you can. I have my own.
I'll give Dylan some time to think on that one. I don't think Hurts was as big a reach as people think. I have a lot of faith in the system that just.
Do you think he's worth a 4th round pick?
He's a risk. Don't get me wrong, but to me, he's equally risk throwing as Lamar Jackson, because they both are not fantastic at throwing the football. That's just full stop. I still think there was something else that I saw that I was like, that's fucking bonkers of a reach. I'm not overly concerned about my round 10 pick for Pickens. I knew I would have to reach because I knew he was a hot name and I knew he was in a friendly system for receivers.
That comes down to the media bias and throwing his name out so much that everyone in people's minds.
That great catch too. That may have bit me in the ass, right? Right. To me, the biggest reach that I know that I had was Ayuk. I put a lot of high-value stock in Ayuk by the time that I get him because, again, I thought that he was overplayed in media. I knew he was a hot name, and I reached for him with my 6th pick, and I think that was probably one of the larger reaches for a dude that has not shown – like, that's a pretty high value for a dude.
It'd be different if Jimmy was still there.
Yes. It's exactly why I have a problem with it, looking back. But there's a lot of media and a lot of stuff that Trey Lance and him do well. Honestly, I also think that because Debo's hybridness, that Ayuk is kind of the number one receiver because you don't know where Debo's lining up, right? So my whole thing was he'll be on the field a lot this year anyhow, but I still feel a little gross at the 6th round pick with Ayuk. That's probably my bigger reach.
I think my biggest reach was on defense. I took the Bengals.
You took him in the last round, so
really? Yeah, but that's by default. I think the game at some point forces you to pick one, right? So if you don't pick a kicker or defense,
you have to have a starting lineup. So
I know that because I was only able to look
I have another one.
I was only able to look at the roster for only a few seconds because I had drafted a couple, like me personally drafted instead of auto drafted. But there was also things that I had queued. And like when I was looking at defenses, I think like all the ones that I was going to take were gone. So I was like, I'll take a chance. I'll take a chance on the Bengals.
I think it's a terrible pick, dog. I don't. I wouldn't say it's a huge reach.
Defenses don't matter. I'm not even going to concern myself.
Yeah,
I'll say it again. It's a week-by-week basis.
Yeah, it's not a reach. Anyone you pick, there's equal risk with every defense. It does not matter.
Here's a reach to me.
Not really, though, because you get
the Bills is the number one defense on paper. They will lose you weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
Pittsburgh Steelers have a great defensive line. They will lose you weeks.
Colts, top 3 defense the past 5 years. You will absolutely lose games because of the Colts defense. Absolutely. Right. But what I would say, Dylan, is like, I know where your head's at and I understand here's what I would say. Anytime you talk about reaching on a defense, like if you'd have gone Texans, I'd have been like, bro, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's a reach. A defense that's always negative.
So on that, Dylan, I think Kupp is a reach. I do, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I think Kupp is a reach because
he'll still have a middling. He'll still have a middling receiver, like a middling year. That's still a solid receiver.
I don't expect him to fall. Well,
but that I don't
expect him to fall
overall. I mean, that's
when did he go? Like first round?
Yeah. Do you
go over
huge first round? So
unless he was picked before JT, and if he was picked before JT, Derrick Henry. I mean, it makes sense for him to go early. He's one of the top 5 receivers.
In the sense of how Dylan plays fantasy. In the sense of the way that Dylan plays fantasy, that running back room that he's been having dominant for years.
Yeah,
they like forced him to play his hand at receiver this year.
Yeah.
And to me, that kind of reaches in the way that he plays fantasy. Not so much a literal reach in who Cooper Kupp is for value on ADP, but how he plays fantasy. I feel like this is forcing him out of his comfort zone because now he's got to rely on a dude that, like, if he doesn't get looks, he doesn't play well. Full stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know I talked to Dylan about it a little bit, and I know that one. Another one, Dylan, I'm not trying to tag team you. I'm just talking generally.
Nope. It's
and not just in our draft, but in many drafts. Drake London went entirely too high across the board.
Of all the rookies that have gotten false hype, he has delivered the least amount.
We'll put a little note.
For the back end of the show.
Yeah,
yes.
Back end of the show.
Brian's
this dude right here.
I mean, it blew my mind. So you know what, Brian? You got a great point because we'll have plenty of talking space on that one. So the last reach, again, to me, I think Stephon Diggs was super high on boards. I love me some Stephon Diggs. I love the system he's in. But it is a packed Buffalo offense.
Yes,
running back.
What Raymond was saying, it's going to go. The ball is going to go everywhere to everybody.
Tough, man. And now you got. I know Ray doesn't care, but Crowder to me is an upgrade from Beasley. He is. And then McKenzie is playing great football. Isaiah McKenzie,
so he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah, his speed and hands are better than okay. The problem is he's 5'9". That's going to be a problem, right? Well,
right? An issue.
And then the last bit that I think any Green Bay player was a reach. Any Green Bay player was a reach.
So that was part of my reaches that I was going to bring up. Yes, even him. I don't care who.
Aaron Jones. Even Aaron Jones. Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
Aaron
Jones.
Absolutely.
He
went in the first round.
I'm just here to have a conversation to let people know.
Any backfield that is a comp backfield is a reach. All of them. Yes. It doesn't matter that Dylan Jones or Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones and Dylan is the guy you're thinking of. Yeah.
Those two are amazing on their own. They're in a comp backfield. It's a miserable fantasy place to be. It's terrible. They both suffer. If Dylan, you can't start them consistently, it is a bad pick. I'm not sorry. You're never going to change my mind on that. No. If you don't know who is starting, you can't start him.
And when you vacate someone the size of Devontae Adams and the role he played, it gets vacuumous and it starts to become unpredictable and it starts to dude, Ray said it their first or second episode we ever televised. The fattest fucking cope this year was that Green Bay does not acknowledge you do not have Devontae Adams, man. You will not play at the same level, Tom. You're just not going to. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to win. It will not be 14
minutes. It's not going to be pretty.
No way.
I would say, so I have two things.
Yes.
First thing is the far reach thing would be pretty much any Lions player. And I would say, except maybe two players. I would say Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift.
No, I would say Swift and St. Brown.
No, every Lions player is a reach, including especially St. Brown, Swift.
St. Brown.
Jamal Williams.
I would say Swift would be
Swift went in the first round for us.
Yeah, Swift would be he wouldn't be too much of a reach. I would say
no, I don't think so either.
St. Brown would be reaches, but what Ray was saying about the joint backfield, that's a problem that the Browns ran into, especially last year.
Yes,
I had Hunt in my lineup, and you'd get weeks where Hunt would just kill it, and then he would get, and then the next week he would never
5
run
points.
the ball. Yeah, he would run it 4 or 5, Yeah, he would rush for like
4 or 5 times. And that's it.
Yeah. And that's why, again, I will bring it up a billion times, and Ray will always roll his eyes the hardcore way. But the amount of collective backfields increases every fucking year, and it gets harder and harder for running backs to be what we call them in fantasy as league winners, right? Because like you don't know that anymore.
Yeah,
you don't know.
I mean, like, you think about
becoming as inconsistent as tight ends.
Yes.
Well, that's like, I mean, like, that's even with the lines too. Like, there's Williams and there's Swift, so it's like.
I thought you were talking about your rookie receiver.
No. We're talking about the running back. Swift will start if he's healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And even if he's injured, but I mean, there are points where they overlap and Jamal Williams starts.
Yes.
And it's aggravating.
But like, also that's the thing too, is like they're both really good running backs. I think.
Yeah, they're good.
I mean,
Swift is definitely better, but they're good.
I mean, like, I would say, I don't know.
I think Swift has a year.
That's why he's.
I'm not in the NFL, so I don't. I'm not even know near saying who's good and who's bad. But
I'm gonna need you. I'm gonna need a favor from you this year, Dylan. I need you to go over there and tell Hawkinson to act like a grown ass fucking man and dominate in his league, because he should have the highest numbers, just shy of, like, I don't know, maybe Kelsey or whatever the fuck, right? But Hawkinson has the set to be awesome, but he hasn't been it yet.
I think
not on him.
The Lions. I think the Lions have been running into is the O line. I think that's been like because I don't think they're giving.
We don't have the time to talk about what's wrong with Detroit. All right.
Don't worry, we'll get to it. But I just wanted to say that point. Okay, so I want us to get into the hot topic that actually a couple folks have asked me about. So at the end of most of our shows, Dylan, I know you joined us the first time this week. Shout out.
Yes, sir.
We like to do a segment we call Trap Whatever we're talking about. So if it's trap running backs, trap receivers, these are guys that like consistently are rated higher or picked higher and usually or almost always disappoint, right?
I got one right off the bat.
I'll let you go first. I'll let you go first. Just give me a second to finish that part. So today in particular, if you have something relevant to the rookies or something in the media that's been super pumped up, right? Like a certain receiver in Pittsburgh, maybe, or like the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs have like 3 players that you would think would be the best in the NFL, but they're like 5th on the depth chart, right? Stuff like that. But if you have like a player in mind since the draft episode, I'm fine with letting that too. So since you're so eager, why don't you hit us with it? What you got?
Okay. All right. So keep in mind, I love the dude, right? I think he's a really good player when he plays. I love him when he plays because he plays with his heart, right? But like the problem is, and it's not his fault. It's not his fault. I get it. I understand, bro. Like you're in the NFL, getting hit all the time, you get injured. I get it. Stuff happens, right? But like like if we're talking straight fantasy points and who's inconsistent, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, okay.
And
Is it him or Elliott?
Okay.
Oh yeah. It's Christian.
Me and Brian are on this train.
Yeah. I when he plays, he'll show up with 20,
30, 40 points, whatever.
Yeah, 20 to 40 points.
When did he go in our league?
He went 3rd overall, 4th overall.
He went 4th overall just because of auto draft.
So,
auto draft because
that's not
of
bad,
Embiid.
though.
No, actually, excuse me. He went 5th overall because Chase went 4th overall because Brock had Chase. That's right.
Yeah, but but when he does play, he's killing it on the field.
Yeah.
And I ran into this problem last year because I think he sat on, like I said,
he played like 4 games.
You get injured. I get it. But like,
he
played
7 games.
When you go, but like, if we're just straight talking fantasy points, right? Like that's it. Like that is pretty.
Do you think the situation he's in this year with Mayfield, does that change for you? Or is it still the same person? Is it still like, look, I'm not, he could have a phenomenal year, but like, do you still have the opinion of like, I'm not picking him with the 1st overall pick? I'm not doing it.
See, like, I don't know, because Baker didn't really do anything for like Hunt or Chubb last year.
Sure.
Like,
he didn't play last year, though, as little credence as that.
What?
No, Baker played like 6 games.
Baker played hurt. He played straight through it.
Yeah, Baker played a lot of hurt.
He was out for like 11 games. No, I'm talking about Baker.
CMC was out like 11
I'll get the
games.
numbers.
Okay. Anyway.
But Yeah,
Baker plays full year.
If we're talking like straight, so like, I don't think Baker would make a difference.
Okay,
but
even
like
in a more talented
that's just
Carolina team.
Like, I mean, yeah, just because like
I'm just questioning, dog. I'm not.
I know you're good. I
it.
just like it's the human body, right? Like you can only handle so much, right? Like.
Hey,
I get it. Like I'm not in the NFL. I'm not getting hit by a truck driver. Like I'm not getting hit by a truck every weekend. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
that sucks.
He played more than I thought.
Yeah,
never mind.
I think you're thinking of CMC.
I'm not.
CMC, if we're talking about CMC, like fantasy points wise, right? He's a great running back when he can play. When he can play, you can rely on him for receptions, and you can rely on him for rushing the ball. Like he's just he is a football player.
Yes.
But when it comes to straight football or fantasy points, like you can't rely on him for fantasy points. And
flashback to last year.
I figured that one out. Yeah, last year when and like I said, not his fault, but like it's just if we're talking about inconsistency.
I bring it up, Dylan, because right before our draft last year, me and Brian were on the phone, and Brian got the first overall pick, and Brian was like, "Jim, I'm not getting Christian. I'm not doing it. He's going to be too injured." And he went with Dalvin. It was last year, right?
Yeah,
it was last year. And you went with Dalvin Cook, which at the time was definitely the right choice because Dalvin Cook, before he had a couple of small injuries here and there, was still a dominant running back, right?
Yeah.
But no, dude, you have hit an issue that is so fucking hot in so many leagues, including the ones I was talking to Ray about with my Commander and Warrants, where like the Warrants like adamant, CMC first overall. And the officers are like, you've lost your mind.
Yeah. I would say that too. And like I would say if you're going to take a running back first overall, I would go.
It's got to be JT. It's got to be.
Listen,
consistency and then with points too.
Yeah.
Like.
We have talked about.
We'll put that on the board. Go ahead.
We have talked about CMC like ad nauseum on this show.
Yes.
And in our league, it's. I mean, I know it was auto draft, but it was like it still happened, right? Because even the bots think that he's good.
Yes.
Well, he is good when he plays. No, he is good. It's just that he's not consistent.
You are hitting on something that we will detail thoroughly. But I got
all season. We will talk about it all season because it's going to continue to be an issue.
But for you, Ray, you'll hear us. What is the trap draft or trap media lie, if you will?
I had it and I lost it. I had one I was passionate
Ryan has
about.
one.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Ryan.
hell. Actually, mine's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster.
Nice.
Ooh,
I think
I got
because of the fact of yes, he's a receiver. He has experience. He has good hands. However, I think with him him coming into Kansas City trying to replace Hill, as a part of that, I think Kansas City also finds a way. Hill got a lot of looks because again he was open a lot of time. However, I think what's going to happen now is they're going to go into how Ray was saying and we've been talking about is how the Bills that ball gets spread around a lot.
Yes.
So I think what's going to end up happening is they're not going to have that number one receiver. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to across the board. It's just going to be kind of even, and you're not going to have a really good star. Which also brings me to another point: is Sky Moore, rookie for KC, having really good looks. They've been talking about him. He looks really good. I
don't hate your choice though, man.
I
don't hate your pick of him.
I don't think there's enough production to.
I think if you
honestly. I know the season hasn't started, but he's already looking
more context for the fans at home. The point that Brian's making, and this is something that the whole point of the back end of the show is, I am not saying these players are bad. What I'm saying is the context isn't there. So with Sky Moore, yeah, man, he's 5th on the depth chart. So stop drafting him 10 and above rounds. Stop it.
Like
he's not on the field.
He's rostered 68%.
Which is insane because he's not even the top 4 receiver.
And the only reason why I have him is because he was sitting there at the very bottom of the barrel. Yes. I was like, sure, we'll give you a go as a little bit of a reach out there.
I don't think you made a bad choice. I understand and I agree that the players had some media stuff that's altered the way that people look. I feel you. I do. I don't think the way you got him at the end, he would have been picked up off waivers. If not by you, definitely by me. I would have had him on waivers. Right? Yeah. I don't think it was a bad timing. I agree with the statement, but I don't think you made a bad decision. For me, I'm actually going to get off the rookie train for a minute. I am not sold. I do not believe Trey Lance can lead this offense. I do not believe that he will produce the numbers people are swearing by. He's not that fast. No, well, yours was an auto draft, so I'm not. That's fine. But like, I'm talking people drafting him as their first quarterback,
or their starter.
Quarterback.
They act like he's going to replace Jimmy G as a starter.
They act like not only that, man, but they act like they're going to add another 800 yards rushing on the side of Jimmy G. That's not going to happen, man. All right. If anyone watched him, not only in college but in last year, right? It's not so much that he can't be accurate with the ball; it's that he holds it forever. And that San Francisco is not prepared for the style of offense that he plays. And that's my problem with it, is San Francisco is a traditional run a lot, tight end spread, some post, and a couple of flies with Debo and IU. And it's worked just fine. That's not what Trey Lance does. Trey Lance completely modifies the offense. And I don't think people understand that, like, there is going to be growth and pain. Like, I'm talking Justin Fields last year level of pain. It's going to be rough.
That's rough. That's
because – and I think people don't realize that Jimmy G will come over as the starter like that. Fuck up 4 games in a row. See what happens.
Where did he go?
Jimmy G will start. Oh, the Jimmy G went back to the 49ers. We'll get on that concept. So that's my hot take on media and overhype. I cannot stand the San Francisco quarterback room. But I know, Ray, something jogged your memory because I saw your face light up. Do you have your biggest trap?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson. Which shouldn't be a trap.
That should not be a person in the draft. He shouldn't even be in the draft.
I was thinking about this before when we were on the last subject of like things that shocked me, and this goes along with this because Ditzler drafted him. DeAndre Hopkins. Stop! Why are you drafting suspended players? It doesn't make sense.
Suspended. He's old.
Yeah. Look, I got. No, because. So Ray, I traded for DeAndre last year with Ray, and Ray had a point. I mean, he did fine. He was a very average C+, B- receiver, but he was not the Hopkins that we've grown him to love. No. He wasn't, and he's not now. Right? So that was man, you hit it right on the fucking head. Suspended players, guys. Good one. You cannot base a season on a dude who's gone for 11 games.
Yeah.
Your season is over if that's your bet. Stop betting that. There's no fucking way.
I don't think that happened in our league, but these. I mean, this isn't about just our league because I saw him go in other leagues.
Yes,
I have. He's on it. So we talked about this offline. Some leagues that a couple of the leagues I'm in, suspended players can be put in IR.
Yes,
and so
I did not allow that.
They have these suspended guys in IR. Yeah. Which at the time, I think when I did my very first draft, Kamara was technically suspended, or the league was treating him as suspended because he was supposed to be suspended at the start. So he was sitting in an IR position as a suspension, and they were able to draft more depth because until he was cleared of that suspension, they didn't have to worry about him. Yep. So I think it's a mistake, with the exception of Kamara, because as news developed, it's looking more and more like he's not going to miss games. But for sure, Watson is going to miss games.
Hopkins.
Oh, that's
I'm talking about Watson. That was my first pick. Hopkins as well. 6 games.
Six.
So,
but 11 is a lot.
11. Okay.
I think it's a mistake to draft players that you like and have done well in the past when they have no suspensions. And listen, I'm against Hopkins being suspended for 6 games. And if he weren't suspended, I would think that his value goes up. But you're talking about holding a player that's going to miss 6 fucking games. You could lose 6 games in a row and bury yourself. Now,
in an offense with tons of talent.
Right. Rondale Moore
swept under.
Rondale Moore is going to have a lot more start time now that DeAndre Hopkins is not filling. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins played in the slot, but there were other receivers that did play in the slot because Hopkins was in that WR1 spot.
And instead of Kirk, you got Hollywood. And instead of you've got Rondale in the slot, and you've got Zach Ertz, and you've got a good, healthy running back room who they drafted the guy behind Connor's a catching back, a rookie. Yeah. But to your point, he could get swept up in an instant. But since we have
no sense to bring in players that aren't going to play. That's all I'm saying.
Since we have our guest with us tonight, and Dylan hasn't joined us often, I'm going to let him – he's got like 3 or 4 things I know he wants to rip off. So go ahead and take us to the end of the show, brother. What's something that's on your mind? I can tell.
Okay, so I would be cautious about the GOAT. If you're going to draft him,
yes.
Yeah, if you're going to draft him, I would say I wouldn't start him.
I would say don't.
I would say, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest quarterback, arguably, right? But I wouldn't just pick him just because he's the GOAT. I wouldn't pick him just because of his name, Tom Brady. Like, I would say if you're gonna draft him and put him on your bench, and then see how he does the first couple weeks. Because even then, you still have to be careful because, like, it also is depending on who they're going against. Because he obviously does better against other teams than he does with, like, some high power.
To your
defenses.
point, New Orleans kicks the shit out of them every time, badly.
Yeah,
badly.
I'll just never forget the traumatizing moment I had when I played T. Brady against the Packers. I was like, "Oh, the Packers
shit,
defense.
Yeah,
the Packers, Packers have interceptions." I was like, "Oh gosh, what did I do?" And then my backup was Drew Brees at the time, and I picked two legendary quarterbacks, but don't go off just because they're legendary quarterback. Like I guess it would be example too is if Ben was still in the league, don't go because of his or Phillip Rivers.
We talked about that. Phillip Rivers. What the fuck do you mean, Phillip
Ray has
Rivers?
had a thought or two.
And who was the Colts quarterback before he retired a couple years ago? Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck.
Luck.
Fine.
Andrew Luck. Like, you don't go.
Imagine you draft Andrew Luck and then he quits. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Don't
go for like the legendary name. Go if you're trying to win. Go for like fantasy points. Don't go because it's T. Brady. If you're going to draft T. Brady, put him on your bench. See how he does. And then I was going to caveat something. Okay. I'm sorry, Jim.
No. I was just saying. Just super quick to add to that. The same logic applies to you. You need to see how these offenses solidify before you start wheeling and dealing. Go back to Ray's 3-game rule. Sky Moore maybe has 0 points. Maybe next week 25. You don't know, right? That 3-game rule is vital. So on that, like if you're going to have Tom and you're like, you know what, I'm going to switch, you need to see the offense solidify before you make that decision. So go ahead, Jerry. Go to your second point.
The other thing I was going to say, because I remember was what Brian was saying about Juju. He's on KC now, right?
Yeah.
I think he has. I don't think that's a far reach, and just because from what Brian was saying is because he does get open, and like he is a good receiver. He is a great receiver, and I think he went to a perfect offense to where he belongs. Just because
you watched that Ravens game, Ray. Told you about it.
I know because you watch Mahomes, he can make things happen. So like as long as Juju can get open,
he can make rise into asses. I'm sure.
Because you're a Josh Allen fan.
So, okay, but on that note, Dylan, real quick. So on that note, right, we saw it last year with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who has incredible speed, right? Him going to Kansas City, does that help him or not? And does that hurt Juju because you have another receiver who could?
I thought he was a tight end.
I don't know.
No, Valdez-Scantling, no.
He's a nobody.
He's a gunner.
He's going to be a nobody.
Die-hard gunner.
I knew he was a Packer. I knew he played for the Packers then. I thought he was a tight end, though.
Which is probably actually the best point you could make, honestly. It's probably the best response I could have there, Dylan. Honestly, because that's how relevant Marquez is.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, no,
he had Aaron Rodgers throwing to him, and he wasn't relevant.
Still couldn't.
Pat Mahomes is not. He's not better than Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think it's story.
But like Tyreek's out of there. He's out of the picture. So it's like you have guys that are hungry to be like the number one receiver, right? You want to be that guy because you're going to get paid more, right? Like you're going to be more hungry the more looks you get, the more touchdowns you get, the more yards, whatever, right? So like that, I think with like the drive, I feel like Juju has. I feel like he would be the one guy that would.
I think his health is a huge factor, but I don't hate that point.
To fucking fondle Cox on TikTok.
Well,
all right, I don't know. Focus on football.
Okay. So what I want to end with, right? I want to thank Dylan for coming out. I appreciate it, brother. It's always great to have different insight. What I want to end with too is actually another one of Ray's bullet points that I do live and die by now in fantasy football. You cannot draft according to last year's performance. You have to see how they're playing now. You have to see how their offense has changed. What's their O-line? Is there a new head coach? These things matter a lot. So you need to think about that. Like, hey, you know what? I know what's a big one. Shoot. There was one I thought about the other day where I was like, man, it was such a drastic difference between 2 years ago and last year.
Like an individual player.
Tyreek Hill. Perfect example. 2 years ago was probably one of the number one fantasy season football players, right? Just absolutely phenom numbers.
He's been
last
dominant
year,
for a while.
Absolutely inconsistent. Dog, it was impossible to know.
Yeah, because Pat Mahomes was dog shit. Because he had such a rough patch in the middle of the season, you know?
Yeah. Rough patch.
They had a rough one.
So,
look, man, when you get
don't draft
the season.
But what I'm saying is, like, don't draft Tyreek Hill based off 2 years' performance ago.
No,
that's
you
what
have no
right?
clue how he's going to perform in Miami. I don't care how well he played in preseason. You don't know.
The same as Devontae Adams, man. It's a whole different team, dog. I don't know if I would compare Carr and Rodgers. I probably wouldn't, but I don't think Carr is a bad quarterback. I think he can be a very, very good quarterback, right? But that doesn't mean Adams will produce, right? So keep these things in mind, and try not to listen to many fantasy shows because it'll throw off what you're thinking. It'll have you drafting rookies that have no positional advantage. So use your time well, use your research well, stick with your plan and your draft. So for those who have not drafted, don't deviate from the plan just because you didn't get exactly who you wanted. Stay on course, get the next best thing, and just don't free ball it and start picking from the top. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It never does.
There are shitty players at the top. That is a fact.
Don't go for the legendary name either.
That's it.
Derrick Henry.
You have to see where you're playing now for sure.
That's fair. So Derrick Henry's a good one to look after.
Yeah. Anybody got something else for the folks at home? Last remarks?
I got something actually.
Okay.
What, Brian?
All right, I want to talk about Jarvis Landry.
Why? We do not have time for this.
Because I'm upset he's spaghetti, and I think he's going to do great with the new system.
I've got him drafted. I have him on a couple teams.
No one's talking about this, though. I feel
because it's Jarvis Landry. He's a middle receiver.
Because New Orleans is unpredictable at this time.
Yeah.
It's because no one knows what the offense in New Orleans will look like. The same as I got Mike Thomas. I'm not starting in week one.
For sure. He's a good bench seater. This is where it comes to the 3-week rule. See what he does because I think he's going to explode big.
I think that offense got super beefy with Olave, Thomas, and now Landry. No, I love it too, man. So I like that.
I'll rest my case.
You could argue the same thing with CMC. You could probably bench him for the first couple weeks just to see.
You shouldn't bench him. You shouldn't have him. You should bench somebody you shouldn't have drafted.
If you have him, you should. I would start him week 1, and then if he gets hurt, that's it.
Yeah, start him while he's healthy, week 1, and then don't start him the rest of the year.
That's good. We will save the rest for next week. Obviously, we're full of ideas. And welcome to the first week. Thursday, we tee off our actual season with a great Bills and Rams game.
God, so I'm already nervous.
If you guys have questions on that, shoot us a little thing on Spotify or YouTube. We'll do the best we can. I'm a Cam Akers holder this year. Even I'm a little dicey on that one. We'll see how that goes, right?
That's fair.
I think everybody's added what they had tonight. Again, Dylan, thank you so much for coming out, brother. This is some awesome stuff, and I know we're super ready for the season to start, boys. So without that, folks, we will catch y'all next week.
Peace.